Let's bring in Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement, YIAGA Africa. Glad to have you on Newsnight tonight.
You always make this mistake with our name. It's YIAGA Africa.
YIAGA Africa.
It's not Youth Initiative.
Okay, YIAGA Africa Initiative.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks for correcting that. We'll take note of it going forward. Now, let's even start with your petition. That's dated November 1. It seems to have come after the fact. You know, I mean, what has YIAGA been up to or waiting for, you know, during the nomination of this, Rex and the confirmation? Why didn't this opposition come long before this?
Well, I don't think it's after the fact, but by the way, thanks for the invitation. It's not after the fact. And let's look at how this process, you know, has played out. So last week, the presidency released a statement that 9 nominees have been appointed to INEC. It was just a statement that was released. That was the first statement. 24 hours later, a new, an updated list came, and there were 10 individuals. Some names were substituted. The one from Ekiti, the one from Kwara was also substituted. I think the one from Gombe was also substituted. Now, the executive communication was only read at the floor of the Senate on Tuesday. That's the day before yesterday.
Right.
Now, the procedure is once there's executive communications and this matter is considered, especially matters of this nature, it will be referred to the Senate Committee on INEC. And the Senate Committee, the committee is the engine room of legislative work. That's where due diligence is performed on all legislative matters referred to the committees. That's why you have the committees. But then the Senate decided they were going to proceed with confirming these individuals without referring the matter, you know, to the committee. Executive communication read on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the screening was conducted and 7 commissioners or nominees were screened. Now, when last week the announcement was made, we also wrote to the president because the matter was not read on the floor of the Senate. It was only read on Tuesday. And so it was read on Tuesday, and Wednesday morning, the petition of 17 civil society organizations was sent. But that same day was when they commenced the screening. So it wasn't actually late. But you know, this is not the first time we've been on this road. During the Buhari's administration, he did the same thing. But this particular dispensation is, and the action taken by the Senate is really troubling. And I think that this Senate and this action is taken is unfair to Nigerians. It's unfair to our democratic process. And we call on, you know, the president, if he's really interested in leaving a legacy, you know, of a democratic process that inspires confidence, then what you see, you know, on the pages of newspapers, on media platforms of individuals who are clearly partisan, you know, into INEC is an attack, an aberration of the Constitution. And the president is a creation of the Constitution. But you see, in a democracy, you have the legislative arm that has the powers of checks and balances. And on this particular occasion, especially in relation to these nominees who have partisan leanings, the Senate failed to discharge the constitutional responsibility placed on them to check the excesses of the executive, to conduct due diligence, because what they have done is they've let politicians go to INEC. And how do you expect Nigerians to trust the Electoral Commission when it's manned by politicians?
Yeah, clearly this is about trust, and this is about having faith in the system. And for many Nigerians, they as well will raise eyebrows, just like the 17 and others. Can this be remedied? Because listening to those 2 reports earlier, you would see that there are evidences, you know, that you could clearly see the partisanship. So they are not in doubt of some of these individuals. Now that these are coming to the fore, can it be remedied?
I think it can be remedied. It can be remedied for three reasons. One, to defend the Constitution. And we must constantly reiterate the fact that the President and the Senate are a creation of the Constitution. The oath that they swear is to protect and defend the Constitution. And if an act is in violation of the Constitution, then first they need to rise to protect the Constitution. That's one. Two, it's in the interest of our democratic process. We've just come from an election where the commission, the process, is facing a lot of leadership and credibility crisis. And so you can't have a situation where you have the Electoral Commission populated with what? With individuals who have partisan leaning. We've not recovered from the electoral coup in Adamawa. We haven't. We've not recovered from what happened in Sokoto, in Abia. And so when citizens are raising their voice, they are worried that this democracy that they hold very dear, is being destroyed by the same people who are the custodians of our laws, who should protect the institution. The third, it's about the institution of INEC. And can it be remedied? Yes, it can be remedied. So the Constitution is clear, right? That, yes, the National Assembly can confirm, but that to remove, these commissioners from office, it's by a resolution, by two-thirds majority of the Senate, as well as following an address by the President. And so if they want to withdraw and remedy this, they can. All they need to do is to follow the constitutional procedure that is provided. But the big question, and I'm glad to see that, one of the opposition parties is speaking, but why did they wait this long? This list was published last week. Why is it that they waited this long? In the Senate, you have opposition parties, you have PDP, you have Labour Party.
Right.
When the Senate chose to take this path, did they rise up to oppose this? Because it does appear that it was a grand conspiracy and there was consensus across board, except we are told otherwise. What actually happened clearly shows that, there was consensus on the part of all the parties. And so we shouldn't always look to civil society to raise these issues.
Okay,
we've done that consistently.
Right.
The parties have a critical role to play.
Absolutely. Let's even go beyond this deed that's been done. What really would be the ideal way of appointing or nominating or selecting or electing, individuals to populate the electoral management body? How best really should this be done? Should calls be made out to the public, for entries, or what? What exactly really should be the process?
I think one of the biggest issues that has to take the front burner of discourse around reforms is about liberating INEC.
Right.
It's about securing the independence of INEC. And so this appointment into INEC is one tool that have been used by politicians to capture the Electoral Commission. And so one, you need to remove the power to appoint INEC commissioners and the chairman from the president. And that's what Justice Uwe's committee recommended. And that power should be vested in the NJC and the National Judicial Commission. But with our reality today, where Justice Itodo, in his valedictory statement, has told us what's the state, of our judicial institutions, I don't think that we should, confer that power on the NJC, especially when you have one man who is the CJN who controls everything in that particular body. So I don't think it's the best approach. Perhaps we need a collegiate approach that has both the parliament, the legislature, the judiciary, and then make it public for citizens and people who want to apply. And then they can go through that screening. But the power should be divested from the president. The second is about resident electoral commissioners. And we always make this, we draw this analogy. In the police, the president only appoints the IG of police. The president does not appoint commissioners of police. The commissioners of police are appointed, by the police force, as well as, with some powers also vested on the Police Service Commission for promotion.
Right.
Now, in this particular case, INEC should have the responsibility of appointing its own state or regional election directors or officers, so that you limit, this interference, this political interference with the functions of the commission. So once a chairman and the national commissioners are appointed, let INEC deal with appointing people who would superintend elections at the state, and not make this, subjected to the whims and caprices of politicians. And that's what you have.
Do you agree with those who say that the rigging of elections, that this is really where it starts?
Absolutely. If you want to manipulate elections,
right,
the first thing to do is to capture the Electoral Commission. When you capture the Electoral Commission, you impede on its ability to deliver credible polls. Because one way to always hijack or capture the commission, it is operational independence, right? When you appoint people who are subservient, people who are partisan, they will design guidelines that only serves the interest of those who have appointed them. They will not just design those guidelines, but they will implement those guidelines. They will not be truthful. They will not be open. And there are several ways you can rig elections. Especially, this is why it is dangerous to have people who have partisan leaning. That's why the Constitution, the frameworks of our Constitution says, don't appoint individuals who have partisan leanings, who have questionable integrity into the Electoral Commission, because when you do so, you imperil democracy.
And the takeaway here is that it can be remedied.
Absolutely.
I'm happy you said that too much. Samson Itodo, many thanks for your time.
Always a delight. Thanks for having me.